Welcome to Good Books Lately. My name is Taylor.
And I'm Brandon. And today we're going to go into an update on what we have finished, what we're currently reading, a compelling pickup for each of us, and then we'll also finish it with a quote of the day from both of us.
That was very well delivered. I always forget quote of the day.
Yeah.
So we have segments for these. So the first one is...
We're going to start with Done and Dusted. Those are the books we finished recently since the last update. And then we have Bookmarked. Those are what we're currently reading, the ones that have bookmarks in them. And then a compelling pickup is just something that we've gotten recently since the last update that we want to share with you guys because we thought it was cool or unique or interesting.
And we love you guys, so we want to share these things with you. It's just book acquisitions.
And then a quote of the day.
Acquisitions.
Right. And then the quote of the day is just a quote that we found in a book that we've been reading or
that we have
finished.
Probably written down in our reading journals
that we still haven't told you guys about.
That we will be making a video about.
Customized.
Eventually.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to start with Done and Dusted?
Yeah. Do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start.
Or should I start?
Yeah, you start.
Okay, I'll start. I'll start with the one I have still. Yeah. You guys know from the last update that I was reading The Will of the Many. This thing's a big beefy boy, chunky boy, 620 pages, I believe. Yeah. I love this book. It got me in the zone. I was just like constantly thinking about the story. I loved it. It had a kind of a Harry Potter, like wizardy school thing about it, but not wizards. It's kind of classic ancient Rome / Greece-esque style to it of these people with some magic involved or will,
which can
as
I
you call
say
it.
Really quick, like I don't know why this is occurring to me, but I love that this is not in ancient Rome or ancient Greece, but that they're taking that time period and kind of using it to, I mean, because when you, the way you describe it, it could very well just be an alternate universe to ancient Rome and Greece.
For sure.
But they're giving it like a fantasy and like a magical underpinning or something like that.
It's a fictional land, but with those kind of similar themes, like they wear togas and cloaks and, it's an ancient kind of feel of the time, but there is this magic component to it.
When you say Harry Potter, it's interesting because Harry Potter in the Harry Potter land. No, I understand that, but like what J.K. Rowling did with Harry Potter is when they're in Hogwarts and Hogsmeade, it's very like, medieval, right? So it kind of emulates that whole medieval England kind of thing. This is emulating like medieval or not medieval, ancient Rome and Greece.
Ancient Greece.
But it's it's not like it's cool.
Yeah,
it's so cool. I don't know.
Really good.
Really
the only downside I have is that I can't jump into, because this is going to be a trilogy, and I can't jump into book 2 right away because
I don't even know how hard.
According to his update on his website, is book 2's in editing, and he says from editing to when it's final published is usually about a year, and that was in June. So we got probably about a year's worth of time before I get the second edition or second installment of The Will of the Many.
Was it satisfying just leaving it, or was it like cliffhanger?
I mean, you get to the end of what this story was building, but you do have some unresolved answers, and there's some things there that are like, okay, what's going to happen with the main character? What's going to happen now that this has occurred and now things have been brought to light? But really, really cool. But yeah, 5 stars and well worth it.
Let me just tell you, he was so into this book that towards the end, not even just towards the end, but like maybe about halfway through, it was like absorbing for him, that if he wasn't reading it, towards the end there, like if you weren't reading it, you were thinking about it, and if he wasn't reading it, he was getting kind of crabby.
I was getting
fiending for it.
I needed it.
Like he would just.
But I was also
over there
trying to finish it because I wanted to finish it before the end of June.
Yeah,
and I finished it the last day of June. So
yeah, you did a great job with that. But you really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Solid book. So
really good.
Cool. I think that would be one I would like to read too.
I think you would too.
Cool.
It's really good. All right,
my turn.
You're done and dusted.
Done and dusted. Well, my only done and dusted today. Okay.
But it's a big one. Yeah.
Okay, this is Alchemy by S.J. Paris. I have finished it. This was so good.
Yeah.
It's hard to give you a whole lot about the plot of this, only because it's book 7. I keep forgetting. It's book 7 in a full series. But it's a series by S.J. Paris that follows Giordano Bruno, who is an actual person in history. He was an Italian scholar and philosopher who was actually a former monk and kind of left the church to become a philosopher, and all of this alchemy was in there, whatever. So it kind of follows him, and he goes on various different he's tasked with various different mysteries that he has to help solve with real people in historical England during the Elizabethan time. But this one saw him going to work with Rudolph, the Holy Roman Emperor, in Prague. So the setting is in Prague. If you want to read historical fiction in this time period, but you want it delivered to you from a writer who knows how to set the scene so that you can be there, this writer, S.J. Paris and C.J. Sansom, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I swear, like, you can smell the streets of these places.
Yeah, you're engrossed.
Beautiful. Absolutely engrossed. This one takes us, like I said, to Prague. I was putting out, so behind us right now we have these like ambiance videos that you can find on YouTube. But we found a couple of like Prague Castle, and I put them on while I was reading. This was just so good. It has a lot of I want to read a little bit from my reading journal, if that's okay, because it helps to kind of
fine.
My first impressions of this was that it's a slow start, but that is the way with these rich and detailed historical settings. Middle impression is when you let these books build and develop, you are rewarded with such satisfying plot developments and twists, and that is absolutely true. You have to give it the time that it needs in the beginning to set everything up. Yes, the pace is a little slow in the beginning, but I don't mean that in a bad way at all. Key takeaways. The commentary on the Jewish population living in Europe during the Holy Roman Empire was really interesting. Things I didn't really understand or know or even appreciate, and that's why book reading is so great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Interesting. Yeah, it really does. Interesting social commentary on persecuted groups living in hostile places. So like not even just the Jewish population, but also women, alchemists, who at that time were essentially just the precursor to chemists. What people thought they were doing was magic, and sometimes they would claim that it was to kind of earn the ear of like people in higher places, but they knew what they were doing was chemical in a lot of ways. I said here that there's progressive views in this series, but more so in this book, almost anachronistically so. So what I mean by that is that there are some kind of perspectives here that you think might not fit with that time period, because you just think, well, how progressive could they possibly have been in 16th century Prague? But then when you think, and the way that she writes it in here, it's not, it doesn't, it seems anachronistic, but it's not distracting.
Right.
It almost
feel like it was spear-horned in there.
Not at all. And that would annoy me if it felt like that.
Push a message or an agenda.
No, it didn't feel like that at all. It felt like, no, people like this actually existed. It's just those aren't the voices that you heard at that time. So it's interesting. You don't feel like you're being preached to. It's very important to mention that. You don't at all feel that way, but there is a message there. What you're getting is a really great perspective from maybe a different perspective. Who knows? I said, I wonder how progressive, but I wonder how progressive some people during this time would have been, and how does that compare to progressiveness now? Whatever. Okay. Sorry. Long drawn out. I really, really enjoyed this. Really enjoyed it. It's such a great mystery, and she's a fantastic writer. So Alchemy. Done and dusted.
Awesome. All right. So I had another one I finished before I finished The Will of the Many, but I don't have it anymore. It's Born to be Hanged, which I talked about on the last update video. But because of the way I talked about it and kind of having loaned your dad, my father-in-law, Dale. Hi, Dale.
Hi, Dad.
Loaned him the wager, and then him reading that, and then him hearing about Born to be Hanged, he wanted to read it. He was interested. So I loaned it to him.
With the little pirate bookmark.
With the little pirate bookmark. So I loaned that to him. But I enjoyed that book immensely. It's what you want out of a pirate book, like I said before. Pirates doing piratey things, pirating, their knowledge of the sea, and just kind of what life was like for a pirate or seaman in the late 1600s, especially in what they called I think it was the South Seas or the South Pacific Seas, on the western side of Panama.
So this is the South Pacific pirates, not the Caribbean pirates.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of are both, because they start in the Caribbean, cross by land.
Through Panama?
Through Panama, before the Panama Canal. And then they're attacking the Spanish galleons and things there to try to make their wealth. And then they work their way south in through the doldrums, and you learn about...
Do they go down and under Cape Horn?
Oh, yeah.
See, like that whole...
Yeah, which is like the opposite of the wager. The wager is like the English in the 1700s going around to chase the Spanish galleons.
Right, okay.
But the U.S. or the British Navy, and they going around the Cape Horn the other way. But yeah, really cool. If you're into pirates or you're into nonfiction stories about sailing and ancient sailing, that's a great book to read because it really gives you a good idea of what's
And we
going
watched the first 3 Pirates of the Caribbean
on. With our boys.
with the boys. And those movies are so good. The first and the third are the best. The third is my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that was
They're really
fun.
good.
Yeah, really super good.
So yeah, those are the 2 I finished since the last video.
Yeah, that's good. I only
So that's my done and dusted. Oh, I gave it 5 stars, obviously.
Of course. and it's a worthy 5 stars.
Yeah,
I know how much you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna move on now to
bookmarked. What do you got?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
We'll roll into you.
Let's start with the one I'm closest to finishing right now.
And you talked about this on the last one, right?
I did talk about this on the last one.
Yeah.
This is the Hazelborn Ladies Motorcycle and Flying Club by Helen Simonson. I talked about this on the last one.
You've been
I
chewing through it right now.
This book. This is my morning coffee book. I feel like the entire time I'm reading this book, I'm smiling because it's so good. The characters are so rich and well developed, and it's hard to say, like, there are things happening in this book. There's a story, there's a plot, there's little subplots happening with other little people, like other people, and little dramas that take place, and vignettes, like one particular character, he's a waiter in the hotel, and there's a little part of his background which is mentioned a few times in the book, like a little vignette almost. It's just so beautifully written in the way that it talks about these people and shares their story, and how it talks about women who are adjusting to life after the war and kind of having some of those freedoms that they had before, not like taken from them, but things are being redistributed because now you have men who have returned from war that need work. And so a lot of work
life
that women
is going
were
back
doing,
to normal.
everything is going back. Yeah, it's funny because it's going back to normal, but it's not normal, right? And then you have the male characters who have come back from war who are damaged and injured. With all of that commentary in there and all of that story and just interesting backstory to these characters, it's emotional and it really causes you to think and reflect on that, but it's not heavy. It's not depressing. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be. I'm just saying that you read this and you feel for these people in a way that feels real, like, good.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot about just perspectives of that time period post World War One.
Right.
What was going on with Germans at that time. So
in
England, in England, in the UK here, how Germans were kind of expelled, forced out of the country out of fear. And I mean, I don't know if it's easy for me to say ignorance now. I'm too far away from the time, right? But you can't, what it would have been like in that time. And then especially after World War II, because the same thing happened after World War II where they were expelled from their positions and all of that. But reading this book, you get to see what that was like through the eyes. It's written in third person, but you kind of get to see what that's like through the eyes of a particular character here who is German. And he wasn't expelled, but he tells about people he knew who were, and it's just interesting. Multiple perspectives, really great story. I don't know. I really love it. I really love it.
Yeah, you're almost done.
I'm almost done. It's so good. And if you love British shows like Downton Abbey, or I'm trying to think of some other ones that are kind of similar in terms of
Sanditon.
Sanditon. I mean, this isn't a Jane Austen type.
No.
Was that Jane Austen? But it's like it's more like it just has that cozy feel to it while also giving the credence needed to the issues that they talk. I don't know. It's really good.
Cool.
It's really good. And I like happy things. I don't want to be sad and depressed, and this doesn't do that. But it does make me feel. It's good.
The feels.
It gives me the feels.
All right.
I already know it's going to be at least 4.5, probably 5 stars.
Yeah.
It's so good. So that's my first bookmark.
Bookmark. All right. Cool. I'll do my first one. This was a compelling, or we did like a thrift store haul or something video, and this is one of them. And I picked this up. I remember saying, "Oh, this is Snow Falling on Cedars," by David Gutterson. Gutterson. And I picked this up because we installed the Storygraph app. It's like kind of like a competitor to Goodreads.
Yeah, it's
but you can do like a survey, and it gives you recommendations. And this, I remember being one of them, and I was like, oh, I don't know anything about it. And so when I saw it at the thrift store, I picked it up, put it on the shelf, and then I was like, you know what? I was going through.
And you had somebody recommend it to you.
Yeah, then somebody in the comments said I should definitely read it, and people are saying that's a good book. So I picked it up, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to read it after The Will of the Many. And I started reading it, and it's really interesting, really cool. It tells the story of a fictional island in the kind of the Puget Sound region of Washington after World War II, and it involves a murder of a fisherman, and there's a trial going on of the suspected murderer who is Japanese American, and so they play kind of this
a lot of commentary on
post-war, like your book, but also talk about the Japanese internment here in our country that went on in the Pacific conflict when we got involved in World War II, touching on interracial relationships, that what Americans kind of how they viewed the Japanese people who came here to work the strawberry fields that are in this. And the writing style is something I haven't really read before, this kind of style of writing, where it's kind of you're getting progressed through this story, this trial, but you're being introduced to characters in a way where you're getting their background and kind of their memories as they're watching this trial unfold. And so they're all kind of playing a crucial role, and you're kind of getting this idea of who they are and their kind of mentality, and getting a kick out of like kind of just the message the story is giving, and kind of the overall aspect of this court case going on. But I'm really into it. I'm really like I have my theories in my head about what happened, what really happened, what didn't happen, what the outcome is going to be. So I'm hoping for a good outcome. I know that there was a movie that came out with Ethan Hawke in the early 90s. I don't know if I want to watch it or even read anything about it, because just from what I see in the pictures of that movie, it seems like I don't want it to spoil anything for me.
Oh, you mean before you're done?
Yeah.
But would you want to watch it when you're finished?
Maybe once I finish, and I would read about the movie and see how close it was. But I know it doesn't get good ratings.
Without spoiling anything, let us know in the comments if you think that it is worth watching after reading the book. So you're getting a lot of interesting perspective on that time and how people viewed Japanese people at that time.
Oh,
My grandpa, this, was actually on, I can't remember if it was the Arizona. I thought it was the Arizona. But he was on one of the battleships when they bombed Pearl Harbor. And from when I've spoken to my mom about it, his perspective and the perspective of people at that time, especially who were related or close to people that were at Pearl Harbor, there was a lot of fear and
that was
obvious, like, what do you call it, like antagonism, I don't, just like against
negativity,
a lot of negativity surrounding Japanese people. And it's interesting when you talk to them and you hear those perspectives at that time, because like now when you're looking at something
that's
through
crazy.
like,
how could we do that?
It's so easy for us to say, well, that's horrible, you can't judge people like that. But when you read books like this, and like the one that I'm reading here, like, you can understand both sides of the coin at that time.
At the time, but
reading these perspectives from both sides causes you to understand, like, there's so much more to it. And it's so eye-opening. And with what you're reading there too, like, to learn those, reading is a beautiful thing. Reading Rainbow.
All right. So you have another bookmark that
I do.
Just started, or do you want?
I'm sorry.
I'm done. Yeah, done with it. I think I'm gonna probably be finishing that next by the end of this week, or maybe early next week.
What do you predict your star rating is going to be?
Right now, it's going to be 5.
I mean,
every book I read is a 5.
It starts at a 5, and then we work our way down. You know what? It so does like that.
Yeah, but mine it's like starts at 5. It just stays at 5. If I finish it, it's a 5.
It's a 5.
Unless it was like really, I had to trudge. Then it's a 4.
Oh, talk about trudging.
All right, what are you gonna do?
Okay, so
next bookmarked or former bookmarked?
Let me do this one first.
Okay.
Okay, I can't do this one first. I gotta do this one first. Okay, so we were at Target the other day, and I have no business buying books at Target.
No.
But when you're at Target and your kids are in the toy section browsing around.
And the book section's right there.
Yeah, the book section's right there. You look at books. Well, they had this one. Okay, this is called Clytemnestra. It's one of those Greek mythological retellings.
I feel partly to blame for this.
Well, no. So Brandon brought 2 books to me. There was this one, and then there was one, and I think it was called A Spartan's Sorrow.
Something.
I'm almost positive that's what it was called. But he brought them to me. He's like, look at this. And
like
they're both
story.
about Clytemnestra. So they're both that story, A Spartan's Sorrow, is Clytemnestra after she marries Agamemnon. It starts from that point.
Yeah.
This one begins before she even marries her first husband, who Agamemnon has murdered. Okay, so this one kind of sets the table. That's a good way to put that. So he brought these up to me, and we looked at the 2 to see, compared them on Goodreads
when
to
they
see
came
what
out, because they're right next to each other.
Yeah, I was like, that's kind of interesting.
Or not right next to each other, but they're.
I mean, like, I feel like at some point this Greek mythological retelling thing has like gone off the rails.
A little bit.
Yeah. So anyway, I was compelled. This one got like 4.3 stars on Goodreads. I figured, hey, why not give it a try?
And you started reading it.
I started reading it on the way home,
and we're into it.
Whenever I do that, it's always dangerous because then I get locked in. And I was into it. I was into it in the beginning.
Just testing it out for 45, 50 pages.
And everybody's saying, oh, if you loved Circe, you're going to love this. Circe's by Madeline Miller. It's a Greek retelling.
Great.
I feel like it was the first retelling that really came out
really big one
recently. That caught people's attention. It was fantastic. I want to do one of those like wine time reviews about that book because I love it. I would even reread it. Yeah. Such a good book. This was compared to that, and it got 4.2 stars. I thought, how can that be a miss? So I start reading this, and in the beginning, I was okay. It was okay. We're getting going. It's interesting. It lacks any. Well, okay. There's a lot of things that lacks. But I read up until about 30%. At about 20%, I started thinking, is this good? Like, am I reading a good book, or am I reading a bad book? This I had a quandary.
Or an almost good book.
Or an almost what is it about this book? Because there's obviously something getting me past the 20% mark, but it almost like clicked really fast where I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I think this might be a bad book. Yeah. So the writing is not the best, and that becomes very obvious at about 25%. The story is good. There's potential here for a good story. Now, the setting development is not good. This is a book that is a time period that is over 2,000 years ago. Okay, we're talking like at least, I would say, what if we talk about Mycenae? What are we talking about?
That's like almost 3,000 years ago.
Yeah. Long time ago, right? How about we set that setting down? Let's make sure we know what the setting's like. I know it's hot in Greece or Sparta.
That's nice.
Well, it's hot all the time.
Yeah, it gets
the
warm.
Sweating is just profuse. It's hot. There's scorched grass. But that's about it. And then there's parts of the building that is like considered the palace that she says what they are. I assume it's like a throne room. And what I visualize in my head is like a throne room in a castle, which is not what I should be visualizing.
Game of Thrones.
Yes. And but yet she tells you what this room is in italics, like it's a vocabulary word. The writing becomes very bad. And I'm not here to badmouth this writer. That's not the point. I'm actually, when it comes to negative reviews of things, I don't usually like to do it. But the writing became very hard to read. Yeah. Okay. I just kind of felt like there's a lot of that this is lacking. And then we get to a part in the story where Clytemnestra has a baby. And it's her first child. And I think maybe what happened was, if I had to visualize all this, she starts having contractions in her room. No one is anywhere to be found. There's no one around her. She's a princess of Sparta, and she's pregnant.
Princess of Sparta is not the same as
Disney
matter.
Princess. It doesn't matter. This is like an heir in her belly. She's no one around. So she starts feeling this pain in her stomach. From the point that she starts feeling this really poorly described pain in her stomach, which you could tell is probably being described from the perspective of a person who's never had a child before. I think it's like maybe 20 minutes done and dusted. The baby's in the world. And it was like some things were knocked off of a table, and like it was a little bit of a hullabaloo. Right. But the baby's here, and here we go. And I'm sorry, I've had 2 children.
I was there.
It's doesn't happen like this. And I just felt like you had such an opportunity to develop this woman's fierce personality that would inform all of the fury that comes forth afterwards, and really develop all of that in her childbirth scene. I mean, they didn't have medication back then. There's no way to make this easy. And this is her first child. And if you're a woman, you understand how that goes. So I'm sorry, but it was just so poorly conceived and written. There were some moments where the writing was okay. I mean, and there were some moments where the writing was good, but overall my impression is it just wasn't great. Like there's a part where she, and I don't want to, I'm not going to, okay.
You didn't.
I don't like it. You. I know. He probably thinks I'm belaboring the issue here. Is that you wiping sweat from your brow?
Oh.
I know.
Beating it up.
I will write a review on Goodreads. I'm most likely not going to finish this. I'm having a real I'm not a quitter, but I just don't enjoy it, and I get to this point now where I'm like picking it apart.
Why?
But you know what bothers me, is that it gets such good reviews. Like, people like it, and there's a very good chance you would like it if you're into Greek retellings. And don't let what I'm saying mess that up, and it might. And I apologize, because I really would not say I don't recommend this.
Right.
Because I know that there are an awful lot of people out here who this is for.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
Yeah,
it's not for me.
It did allow you to move into something else.
This book, so I have an obsession with Pompeii and Herculaneum. I want to go so bad. We watch those walking tours where some guy walks around. Walk tours. He goes around the different like places with the camera.
Yeah.
I love it. So his one on Pompeii was fascinating. I discovered this book. This is called The Wolf Den. It's by Elodie Harper. This is the first in a trilogy, and it takes place in Pompeii in 5 years prior to the eruption of Vesuvius that wiped out Pompeii and Herculaneum. And it is about these prostitutes who work at the Lupinare, and I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but it's the Lupinare. Right. It's the brothel in Pompeii, the main brothel that you can actually visit now.
The site. Remains. And still see the graffiti
of the phallic symbols all around. Yeah, but it follows these women who they call the she-wolves, and the Lupinar is like the wolf den. And it's just intrigue and various different things that happen with these women and their relationships with one another and the hardships that they face. It says, Amara was once the beloved daughter of a Greek doctor until her father's death plunged her mother into destitution. Now, Amara is a slave and prostitute in Pompeii's notorious wolf den brothel, or Lupinar, owned by a cruel and ruthless man. Intelligent and resourceful, she's forced to hide her true self, but her spirit is far from broken. Buoyed by the sisterhood she forges with the brothel's other women, Amara finds solace in the laughter and hopes they all share, for the streets of the city are alive with opportunity. Here, even the lowest born slave can dream of a new beginning, but everything in Pompeii has a price. How much will Amara's freedom cost her? The Wolf Den is the first in a trilogy of novels about the lives of women in ancient Pompeii. So I started reading this, and I'm really enjoying it so far. It's fascinating. The time period is great. The descriptions of the setting is really cool here. I can tell it's going to be one where there's a lot of really descriptive, maybe difficult things to read about what they have to endure. Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty graphic in terms of like, I wouldn't even call this naughtiness because it's not nice.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like naughtiness is more like naughtiness. This is more like, ew, prostitutes. Right. But I really like it so far. So if you have an interest in Roman
prostitutes.
Yeah, Roman prostitutes, this might be the book for you. Okay, I'm done talking. I took too much
fine.
time.
Hey. All right.
I really like it. The chair is squeaking. It sounds like farts. Sorry.
I have another book marked. I shared this on Goodreads. This is the
oldest book ever.
Yeah. This is a book my brother Bryce, who's probably going to be watching, he loaned to me when we were in Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Bryce.
Hi, Bryce. It's called The Door into Summer, but it's by Robert Heinlein. He's the guy who wrote Stormship Troopers, which then became
Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stormtroopers.
Yeah, whatever.
Starship
Troopers. But he's a well-known science fiction author of the golden age of science fiction in the 50s and 60s, maybe even earlier. This one was, what did we find out?
I think it was 54.
56 was when it was published. Really cool. It's short, little science fiction novel about a man who is thinking about going on what they call the cold sleep or the long sleep to wake up in the future.
That's the cryogenically frozen stuff?
It's set in the 70s in America, but it's a futuristic America in the sense that this is written in the 50s for the futuristic 70s, where there has been like nuclear war and fallout and different things and new advancements that aren't necessarily...
They really thought things were going to
happen.
Go to hell pretty fast.
And then he's going to go, or he's planning on going on the sleep, or he's going to go on this long sleep to 30 years into the future, which happens to be 2000. So we're talking about 20 years ago, 24 years ago. But what's really cool is it's written from a 50s perspective about the 70s. And I was telling Taylor last night that it kind of has this Jimmy Stewart, the main character. I could see Jimmy Stewart being the main character.
Has a look like that too, though.
Yeah, kind of like a Jimmy Stewart vibe to the main character.
Oh, that's the author, not the main character. I was sorry.
Yeah, they wouldn't have a picture of him. It kind of the way the dialogue is. It's really kind of cool, kind of the 50s way of talking. But I'm having fun with it. I do pull it out sometimes when we're out in the outside with the boys doing water gun fights and hanging out with the neighbor kids because it is an older book and
it can get wet.
It can get a little worse for wear if it needs to be. It's already had a kind of a turn that I wasn't expecting, which is kind of cool. And I've always liked science fiction. This might push me
might push you in. You could read that like Artemis book over there.
Yeah, or into more. I was going to say more old science fiction, golden age science fiction, because where there's that used bookstore has like this huge section of books just like this. The relationship he has with his cat in this is really funny. But don't want to spoil it. I think that relationship is over now. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh no.
That's more.
The cat died?
No.
They got 9 lives.
He's gonna go 30 years in the future. It's not. That's not gonna be there.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Is the cat's name Miles?
No.
Okay.
Miles is a friend or foe.
It said Miles and I had our first row, and I was like, I wonder if he got in a fight with a cat.
No.
Okay.
No, him and the cat don't get in fights.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So that's my bookmarks.
Nice. I like
Yeah.
it.
So should we do compelling pickup?
Compelling pickups. Can I go first?
Yeah, of course.
I'm really excited about this.
We both shared these on Instagram.
Yes. So my compelling pickup for our anniversary gift was
I got for her.
Yes, Brandon got this for me. This is a folio edition. Look at that. Of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So I read Rebecca.
Yeah.
That was one of the books I was reading on our first video.
Yeah.
Fantastic book.
We watched the movie.
This book, we watched the movie. The movie's good. It doesn't touch the book in terms of nuance and all the little things that happen.
Right.
Somebody asked me, they asked me because they felt like I didn't really tell enough about why I love this book so much.
Yeah.
Nuance, folks, because it drips with it, because it's an atmosphere that is tense and full of anxiety, but it's also beautiful and luxurious at the same time. And it's loaded with nuance, something that the movie, no matter how good Alfred Hitchcock is with whatever he does, he couldn't even touch it. The book is so good.
Right.
This is the folio edition, and it is absolutely beautiful. This is embossed.
Did you notice that? Is that like a D and
This is
M?
D and M for du Maurier, and the R is for Rebecca.
All right,
yeah,
cool.
it's fantastic. This is illustrated, as the folio editions often are. This you can see here.
Manderley.
Last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again.
Which is the shirt you wore in a couple videos ago.
Yeah, I know, that's right. Brandon also got me that shirt. I should have put it on.
That's right.
It gives you a table of contents for the illustrations. The person who illustrated this is, I say this like I'm going to D.G. Smith. I don't know who that is, but this person illustrated it. But yeah, it gives illustrations to go.
That's cool.
With the story. It's absolutely beautiful.
That looks like Laurence Olivier.
I know, it's true. It does.
Who was in the Hitchcock version of
Yeah. Oh, and I love that it shows like the shack.
Yeah.
It's
really cool.
And then Mrs. Danvers.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
If you guys know the book, then you know Mrs. Danvers. But oh my gosh, so this is beautiful.
Yeah.
So this makes me want to read the book again. And it is a book that is absolutely worth reading twice, even if it's pretty short in terms of how long it's been since you've read it. Mm-hmm. Because like I said, it absolutely
pick up on some things.
Drips. It positively drips with nuance.
Yeah, but I had gotten this for our anniversary, ahead of time.
So beautiful.
Knew she had read Rebecca, but then all of a sudden Taylor's like, I keep seeing these Folio Society things on Instagram. What is this? And I'm like, great. I have this gift sitting in our bedroom hiding for the anniversary, and I'm going to give it. She's like, oh, it's a Folio Society.
Chances are if I make some kind of sideways remark about something really cool I see on Instagram.
But I was like, she's going to be fine. She's going to love it. Yeah, so I got it.
I was just more like, you see these and like, what is this? Does the author get it?
Is it really worth this much
money? It's so expensive.
Yeah.
But usually that's just me saying like, I really want one.
I want to be part of the crowd.
Yeah. Anyway, so I love it. Thank you, babe.
You're welcome. Yeah. So
your turn.
Kind of in the same vein.
Not as cool, but still cool.
I put on my TBR on Goodreads or want to read that I wanted to read The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. And I was kind of looking at picking up a cool paperback version. But Taylor, for our anniversary, got me...
These are called Penguin
Classics.
This is a...
Vitre. Vitre.
Vitre or something.
Yeah. And I left the card that she gave me.
Oh my gosh, this card.
Kind of a neverwhere. But like,
the
the inside, the full, or the Penguin edition here, you kind of get these cool artistic...
Look at the card.
Lettering.
The reason I picked out this card is because it reminded me of the Neverwhere book that you read. It's such a beautiful card. Okay.
Really cool.
Sorry.
But yeah, really kind of cool. E and H for Ernest Hemingway.
Oh, this is the back page.
Artistic, yeah, that's the back.
Page.
But yeah, I wanted to read Ernest Hemingway, and I think this is a really cool edition of it, hardback.
I feel like it's one you could hand down to like Angus or something when he's
Yeah, and this is Hemingway's first novel.
Oh, okay.
I believe, if I remember correctly, and I figured, I saw an edition. I read the first couple pages of it before, and I was like, I need to get into some maybe Hemingway. I've always known him to be kind of like a man's man kind of guy, or gives off that sense. Or I think it's after World War II, and it's expatriates that are kind of all like in this kind of love triangle thing going on. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm into it.
And that means, okay, in the Paris Wife,
yeah,
he is doing things, and the story of the Paris Wife, I feel like it's inspiring something that he writes.
Yeah, it's probably this.
It might be this one.
Yeah. So, because this is not based on a true story, but
kind of wonder if
he
you
kind of
should
wrote
read...
it. Yeah.
Maybe you would like the Paris Wife.
Well, I'll read this first.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely want to crack this open, and it's really cool. I love the
show
blue.
It closer because the embossing.
Yeah, the blue is really cool. I love this blue. It's like a cerulean blue.
Cerulean blue, yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
So beautiful.
But yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and it was we both got it. With this new book adventure that we're on.
I know, yeah.
We both got each other cool books for our anniversary.
Here, you want to keep that?
Oh, all right. So those are our compelling pickups. Do you want to do quote?
Quote of the day.
Quote of the day.
All right, you want to go first?
You have one. I'll go first. I have mine open. All right.
Locked and loaded.
Locked and loaded. This
Hey,
came.
look at the blue. It's a little bit more of a green blue, but still good.
But this came from The Will of the Many.
Okay.
A lot of quotes I could have pulled from there, but I thought this one was really kind of cool. When I read it, I was like, hey, I like that. I think that's something you could tell anybody, especially like young boys. And so this is the main character is kind of reflecting back on a childhood memory he has as he's about to go into something in the present time of the story. So he's using the memory of what his father told him.
Okay.
All right. And so this is what his father told him. Nervousness means there's a fear to be faced ahead. The man who is never nervous never does anything hard. The man who is never nervous never grows. I thought that was kind of like poignant. It's very much like, hey, it's okay to be nervous, but you have to face it. Because you're going to learn something from it. You're going to grow from it. And if you are never nervous, then that means you're not putting yourself out there. You're not putting yourself in situations that will help you learn something, or maybe you'll fail at, but you're gonna want to grow from it. And so I thought it was, kind of a good quote to kind of keep in mind when you're feeling nervous, or when, as a father of two boys, when they grow and they kind of face these things where they're nervous, kind of remind them that it's okay.
And I think too, like, read the second part of that. Read it again.
Nervousness means there's a fear to be faced ahead. The man who is never nervous never does anything hard. The man who is never nervous never grows.
It's interesting because it says nervousness is something that you feel when there's a fear to be faced. Not that there is something fearful to be faced, but that you perceive some kind of fear that you're going to face. But that if you
shouldn't
don't
shy away from it.
You shouldn't shy away from it. You have to. It's almost like that's a precursor to you need to face your fears, or if you need to face your fears is good advice before. I think that's great.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
And that if you don't feel nervous, you're not
putting yourself out there. You're not facing your fears. You're not growing. You're not learning.
So being nervous is
okay. Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. That was good.
Yeah. All right. What do you got?
See I'm probably not anything like that, but we'll see. Probably some weird thing from who knows what.
Do what you get.
I like this one. Okay. I feel like this is also advice that people could, or a perspective people should adopt or understand. So there's a character in the story who has gone through an incredibly traumatic experience and experienced a great deal of loss. And he is in the midst of a drunken stupor from just all of this, but he's kind of come out of it enough to talk to somebody who's trying to share a little bit of understanding with how this can work. Okay. So he goes and he's trying to like listen to the advice given, but he also feels his own hardship so strong, that it's hard to think somebody else could possibly understand. Right. So he goes, "What would you know about it?" He asked. "You have no idea what it is to lose everything." And then here's the part. "You're right. I expect I don't." Harris felt a small creeping shame, conscious that he spent much of his time thinking he did. It was funny, he thought, how each person saw their own circumstances loom large, as if through a telescope, and the tribulations of others as if backwards through the small end. Viewed through some universal lens, he doubted that his own suffering was anywhere near as pitiful as he had thought, indulging it night after black night. And I thought that where you say whenever you think of your own trials and tribulations, it's like you're looking at them through a telescope that's magnifying them.
Yeah.
And you look at everybody else's problems as if you flipped the telescope around and you're looking at it through the end that would shrink
everyone
it
else's
down.
problems are easier to solve. Yours are so catastrophic,
Yes.
troubling that you can't figure a way out.
Right. It's so easy to give the same advice to a person, but it's so difficult to give yourself that same advice. Yeah. I experience this myself often. And I thought that that's just really important to understand, to look at trials and tribulations through a universal lens, so that you can see it all out there on the same playing field with the same magnitude, or, actual magnitude, to understand that, your problems might seem huge to you, but to somebody else who has lost everything, you realize it puts it into perspective. And I thought that was really powerful.
No, that's good. I like that.
So, and that's, that was from, Hazelborn Ladies Motorcycle and Flying Club.
Cool.
Fantastic book.
All right.
Fantastic.
Then that does it.
That does it for us.
Quotes. That's our
quote of the day.
So we're done.
We're done.
We're done and dusted with another episode.
Done and dusted. That was fun. If you guys have any recommendations, as always, drop them down below.
Yeah, we love
in the comment section. We love them.
Yeah.
We love having you guys here, and this is great.
Yeah, and so if you got any enjoyment, give it a like.
Definitely subscribe.
Subscribe it.
Click the bell icon.
Yeah.
So you can be notified whenever we upload new content.
Email.
We are working on when we might make this a set schedule of when videos will be released, but we haven't decided on that yet. So we just kind of upload them when we can.
Yeah, and right now it's a little easier to make them because we're in the summer.
Summer
we're both
vacation.
home at the same time.
All the time. So I think it'll be, that being said, I think it'll be easier to pin down a set schedule once school starts.
Yeah.
So, okay. You guys happy reading it until we see you again.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.